I'll go ahead with the agenda for today. Now, yesterday we did see around access control area of Archer, where we saw how we can create a user, how we can create a role, how we can create groups, as well as we had an overview about access control reports. So that was mainly from an access control standpoint. Now, today we are going to look at the application in Archer. So, as we saw yesterday, that application is a set of records, a collection of records which can be grouped together, which belong to a same, which are serving a same purpose. Basically, like all the IT assets, they are all categorized as IT assets, and we can club all of them together. And the records what we frame sets up our application in Archer. So today we are going to see how an application can be created in Archer from scratch, what kinds of applications are available to us in Archer. As well, we will also take a look at some of the important fields in Archer. So as we saw that record is comprised of fields, and we will take a look at some of the crucial and important fields with the help of which a record in Archer can be formulated. So we will see how we can configure the fields, how many types of fields are available in Archer, how can we customize that, uh, you know, several properties related to fields of Archer as well. And then lastly, we are going to talk about application builder reports in Archer. So it is very obvious that Archer as a GRC tool would have bunch of application covering all GRC areas, and primarily application builder reports are curated similar to access control reports what we saw yesterday. Where we will be able to extract information within the application, even the technical specification and configuration of applications in a PDF format or a Word format or an Excel file. And we will be able to utilize this report, which will really help us in developing what we are trying to look for, or even enhance, or even enhance the applications. So we will take a look at some of the application builder reports as well, and that is going to be agenda for today. So now I will dive in directly into the tool. So as usual, we get to the web URL of Archer. We log in with the credentials. As we saw yesterday, how we can create a user account. So I'll be entering up the credentials and I'll be logging into the system. So now I am into the system, and this is what my home page or landing page looks like. So for those of you who are new, this is the administrator tab. This is the administrator dashboard, and this is available to all the admins. So basically, if one has an admin role in their profile, then and then only this administrator tab will be visible. To rest of the business users who are just working as consultants or analysts within the tool, they will not have access to the administrator tab, neither they will be able to perform any kind of admin related activities in the system. So this tab, administrator tab, is specifically for system administrators. And as you can see that there are bunch of applications what is already present in the system, right? And you may be seeing some of them as core applications, some of them as on-demand application, right? I'll explain you what exactly is the difference between each of these. And just talking about the applications, you can customize this page in terms of how many application records you want to see in this whole page. So you can change the page range between 10 to 200, and you can choose the number accordingly. And as moving to the next pages of application, you can choose the normal turn up page where the remaining application would be available to us. Plus we can even filter on each of these fields what we see here, that if I already know a name of the application, I feel like I do not want to, go to applications, keep scrolling down and then have a visibility on. I can simply click on this filter over here, and then I can just type in as risk. All the application which begins with risk would show me up, so I can filter out and narrow down my search in the application area like this. And I can even change with some of the options I have available, that it may equals, contains, starts with, begins with, and empty, non-empty, a lot of options. So if I want to be very precise, I can just type in contains risk register. I get my application name very specific. And then once that is done, you can clear off the filters. So again, you will be back to the home screen. So now let's go ahead and create one application from scratch. And let me explain you the difference between core application and on-demand application. So firstly, I'll go ahead and click on this add new. So this add new option helps me to create an application in Archer. Okay. So I have to select whether I'm creating an application, subform, or a questionnaire. In our case, it's going to be an application. And then I can choose to name an application. So I'll just choose as infosec train webinar, and then I choose a solution. So solution, just to give you an overview, is let's say if we talk about audit planning and quality. So audit planning and quality includes a lot of applications within it. So grouping of similar types of applications which has the same functionality to perform in Archer can be clubbed together in solution. So solution is grouping of applications. So I have several kinds of solutions available in the system, right? And for now, I'm going to just choose audit planning and quality as my solution, and language is English. And I'll go ahead and click on create application. So for now, my application at the very basic level has been created in Archer. So I'll go on the landing page of application first, and I'll also show you, since this application has been created, I'll even see this over here, infosec train webinar. So I do see this application over here in audit planning and quality because I've chosen planning and quality as a solution. So now, talking about properties of application, let's begin by firstly the naming convention. So Archer does allow you to include special characters in the name. It's a free text field. So whichever name you feel comfortable with, you can go ahead and have name of that application when you are creating from scratch. And aliasing would come by default. So whatever name you are providing over here when creating the application, aliasing would be with an underscore, and it would replicate the same name what you have given. But that is only when creating the application. If I try to rename right now, let's say if I'm adding up ABC right now, aliasing will not change. Aliasing will still remain which was original. And aliasing is primarily used from a database perspective. When we execute certain queries in Archer, we do use aliasing name for extracting tables from the database. So aliasing name is primarily used for database standpoint. We don't have much usage of aliasing into Archer as a tool, but it's mainly on the database side. Now let's talk about statuses of application. So in Archer, we usually have four statuses for an application. First is production, second is development, third is archived, and fourth is retired. So you can see all of these four statuses are available to me in this status tab. Now what happens is this does not mean the actual production instance of Archer or development instance of Archer or UAT instance of Archer. That is completely different from IT standpoint. This status is specifically for an application, right? And we will see in a moment how each of these statuses differ, and how each of these statuses, when we change from development to production, from production to retired, how we are able to visualize the change in this application. So I'll just show you in about a moment. So talking about these statuses, I'll also talk about core application and on demand application, so which will help us understand these statuses in a better way. Now, core application is such that Archer as a product provides us several use cases as best practices. So there are several use cases which Archer has automatically created on their side with some of the best GRC practices in the industry, and they do provide on a chargeable basis to the clients. So there are certain applications which is already curated, certain use cases has already been designed by Archer, and they provide us on certain costing or on certain charges. So those solutions, those applications in Archer are known as core application. They are known as core application in Archer. And what we design on our side, like how we are creating this application from scratch for our customization for any industry specific need or organization specific need, we create this application on our side with a specific purpose, right? And that application is known as on demand application in Archer. Okay, so this is primarily the difference between core application and on demand application. I'll just open up a duplicate tab and I'll just show you guys one more time how it looks like. Okay, so as you can see, all of these applications are either classified as core or on demand. When we see on demand, that means it has been created by any administrator, system administrator, or a user. And core application comes along with the solutions what we purchase from Archer. All right, so I'll move ahead with the statuses part now. Now, as we saw earlier that there are four kinds of statuses what is primary available to us, which is production, development, archived, and retired. So now let's talk about each of these statuses. Now, when I choose development, you may see a line at the very top of application that this particular development is available to us for a trial period of 90 days, right? So this application does not consume license at the moment because I've chosen the status as development, and this is like a trial version available to me, but it has got all the functionalities present. It's just that I'll see the tagline which says that it's in development status, and even when I go on the front end and create a record, I will see the same tagline that this application is in development status and it is not licensed application. This message I'll always see when I choose the status as development, and eventually after 90 days or after 3 months, even you will be required to either purchase a license or change it to some other status. So development status is just like a trial period what you get for 90 days, where you can utilize this application and work around. From functionality standpoint, it doesn't stop you from creating fields or records or so. From functionality standpoint, it remains the same what you get in licensed product. Now if I change the status to production again, okay, you'll see that this error message has gone away and one of my license would be utilized. Let me show you very quickly. If I click on licensing information, I'll see that I have been licensed for 30 on-demand applications, and out of which 13 are in production. Okay. Now, if I change the status, okay, for few of the on-demand application I have, like this one, so now having made these changes, I'll go ahead and click on licensing information, and you'll see that the status from 13 has now changed to 15 because I did change the status from development to production. That means my licenses are being consumed. I'm utilizing my license for on-demand application, and they are all live applications right now. The moment I change it back to development, my licenses will be unused. So that means I can use this application for 90 days without paying any cost for licenses, but that is just available for 90 days. So this is basically the difference between production and development. Okay. And if we talk about the other two statuses, which is archived and retired, when I change the status to archived, even then licenses will not be consumed, and archived means that this application is completely read only. I can no longer make any changes in the records, nor I can create any records, nor I can update any records from what we are seeing yesterday in the access roles, at how we were able to create, update, delete, modify all the records. When the status is archived, I basically cannot create, update, or delete anything. It just stays in read only mode. So whatever I have in the system remains the way it is. No further changes, no modification, absolutely nothing. And lastly, when I change the status from archive to retired and I save it, okay, when I change the status to retired, what happens is this application, what I see in infosec train webinar, right, I will no longer be able to see it here in audit, planning, and quality. That means that this application has been completely retired from the system, and that is just sitting somewhere in the database. This is not allowed even in read only mode. You cannot use this application, nor you can read uh, records, or you cannot even have visibility to the records what is present in the application. It's completely retired. Like as a user, you feel like this application is deleted from the system, and as an admin, You just make it retired, so it just sits ideally in the system on the database with no functionality, not even the read writes. This is what all of these four status has to offer us. Create, read, sorry, retired, archived, production, and development. Now, moving to solutions, you can use this application for multiple solutions. Okay. Now, if I choose, let's say, instead of audit planning and quality, I also would want to choose audit engagement and work papers. I would also would want to choose IT risk management. Sorry. So yeah, as you can see, InfoSec Train webinar is also available over here. So you can customize the solutions around this area, and you can choose as many solutions as you want, and this application would be referenced in that particular solution. Now let's go back to properties, and now let's again try to see. We have seen solution, we have seen naming, we have seen the statuses, and now we come to the description area. Now with description in place, usually this description is for the purpose of having this application in the system, that what exactly is this application meant to do. Okay, what exactly is the purpose, why have we created this application, or if it's a core solution, why this application is in place. So you can usually give up a description, and it's a complete text area, so I can just type in details about this applications, etc. Right, I can just enter up any details whichever I want, and I can make this in bold or italic or underlined, and I can even provide fonts I have written. But this does not get displayed to the users, nor it does get displayed anywhere on the front end. It is just for developers internal information, that why this application is present and what is this application meant for. Now if we talk about enable task management in Archer. Now task management is again one of the core applications in Archer, where you can create micro tasks within the system. So let's say you have an application, and there are three or four stakeholders which has a workflow approval rejection stage, right? And you may want to add up additional comments or add up any additional details which you feel like should not be present in the record, but it should be present somewhere in the system. So in that way you can enable the task management option, right? We'll see in a moment how it looks from the front end, but to give you an overview, that task management is for creating several tasks within a record. So this task management helps us creating several tasks within the record, where we create task if needed for several users to get their feedback, to get their comments, what exactly has been done, what exactly are the comments they would want to mention, or even as a layman, as a third person who is not a part of the workflow but would like to understand that what exactly is going on this let's say risk assessment. So if we have task in place, he or she gets an idea that these many items are as a part of checklist, and so has been completed, and so is open for us. So I'll show you about task management as well in the applications from the front end. We'll take a look at that in a moment. Now if we talk about notifications or direct to edit, as we were talking yesterday as well, that how important email address is for every user account to be present in Archer to trigger the notifications or to send out alerts, anything which goes out from the system. So even you need to enable this at the application level. So from an application to application, you have to enable this notifications. If you do not enable the notifications here, then any application which is associated to infosec train webinar, right, what we curate or what is available, no applications will go out for infosec train webinar or application. So you have to enable this notifications. Only then and then any kind of alerts, any kind of approval mails, rejection mails, completion mails, new record creation mails, anything happening with this particular application you want to receive, you will be able to receive it. So this is very mandatory step to receive the notifications. Direct to edit is, let me show you one of the records. So when we open up a record, we see edit and view, right? These two options is always available when you have the edit rights. So when you enable direct to edit, it means that whenever you try to open up a record, it will directly open up in the edit mode. So let's say if I click on any of the records over here, it directly opens up in the edit mode. And view mode, I can change it later. So this is what enable direct to edit has to offer us. Calculation optimization, advanced workflow, these are all calculation optimization works on the back end on the server side for optimizing any kind of calculations what we create for the application, any kinds of fields what we create. So this is just for optimizing that. We do not see any significant difference in terms of functionalities, in terms of working functionalities, my apologies, when we enable this. So it does not make a difference on user side from working functionalities, but yes, it optimizes performance of the system. It optimizes calculations what we may be using, etc. Advanced workflow, action by email, enable mobile, enable engage, they are all additional features. Primarily people do not use it like Archer mobile or Archer engage. They are all, say, Archer engage is a separate integrator which RSA has to offer us, which Archer has to offer us. So it's a separate integrator which can be enabled for every application. Enable mobile, as we were talking yesterday, that you can even enable access of the application from mobile. So to get a good graphical view or a representation of any application, okay, you can enable this mobile option. And advanced workflow is the workflow what we create for the system. So we have got advanced workflow as well here in Archer. We have got this as well. We can enable advanced workflow options, curate the design for advanced workflow, and then this option would be used. We'll hold on for administration at the moment, but first I'll show you about the navigation menu. So if you click here anywhere in the system, you'll see that you see couple of options over here. And for our application as well, infosec train infosec train webinar, okay, I see 5 options over here. So these 5 options come from this navigation menu in Archer. Okay, now let's take a look at each of these and let me show you how each of these looks like, and then let's disable this and see how we can change the navigation menu for everybody in the system. So I go on audit management, I go on audit planning and quality, and I go on infosec train webinar. So if I click on this plus, that means I can create a new record for infosec train webinar, which in our case is this new record as the option. Then if I click on this search, so let's say I don't have records right now, but let's think that we have 15 records or 20 records in the system. And if I want to search for a particular record, okay, I can just enter up the keywords, maybe the tracking ID, or maybe any other keyword which gives me certain amount of results. Then this is what this search is meant for. I can even add up certain filter conditions over here that, if any record has been created in last 1 hour, in last 2 days, 5 days, or maybe I can even set up that just first published equals just today, then any records which are created today will show me the results, and several others. So there are bunch of criteria what we can uh, enter over here. And likewise would be report schedules and data imports. So if I go in here, I can see this data import option and I can see this report option. Now for one of the application where we have enabled this reporting option, okay, let's say this one, okay, I click on this, and all the reports what we were talking about yesterday as well, which is present in this application, will be available to me for my visibility. And if I click on any of it, I'll be able to open up the reports. So this is what this reporting functionality has to offer. Then if I click on data import, any data, external data what you have present and you want to import it into the system Archer, you can use this data import feature of Archer. Okay, and it comes with certain specifications, certain file formatting, uh, you know certain way of importing it. But yes, with when you have formulated that file, when you have created that file, you can easily do an import with the help of data import functionality. And then last but not the least is the schedulers. So any action that you want to take, which is probably going to be very repetitive in the system, you can create schedules. And then according to the schedules what you have given, right, you will be able to get that output according to the frequency, according to the time, according to the criterias what you have given, right? So all of these options are available to me in the menu of any application from here. So I feel like that certain options like data import or schedules, I should not be giving it to the users. I do not want users to have, access to it, or I do not want users to see it. So what I do is I simply uncheck these options. Okay, I uncheck this from here and I save it. So when I save it, now just this three options of creating new record, searching up of records, and checking on the reports will be available to me here. So I click on audit management and I go. One second, let's refresh this once. So I get into it, and then as you see, instead of five, I just see three options: creating new, advanced search, and reporting. So I can customize this navigation menu for users in this way, where I have to only give the options what I want users to use it. Certain functionalities which you feel like out of this five that you do not want to give it, yes, you can go ahead and change it from navigation menu. And then comes uh, the landing page of the application, where we see something by default. Now, since we just have got 1 hour 10 minutes left, it would be very lengthy process for me to create records and show you. So I'm going to pick up another application where I have got some data, right, which will help us understand what this default search means, what this sorting means, right? So I'll go ahead and showcase you that from the backend. So I'm going on the backend similarly, and a similar application of how we have created infosec train. And I'll search by application test, which I've got already here. So here I have given, the fields what is existing in the system. I have given all of these fields, and when I log into the landing page, which is in our case application test now, I will exactly see the fields what I have marked here, like tracking ID, first published, record status, description, devices. So it will be in this format only: tracking ID, first published, record status, description. And this is my landing page of the application. So you can customize, the landing page according to your needs. You feel like that I do not want first published, present, or maybe last updated. I do not want this at all. So I go ahead and remove this last updated. I only keep first published, tracking ID. I even go ahead and remove record status. I remove devices. And then if I shuffle of between value to a field like this, can add the description at the top again. And then I can juggle up around each of the list what I have chosen. And if I want to customize it from the fields what I have created, I get the option to select whichever fields I want to put on my landing page. So simply all you have to do is just click on this tick mark, right, and hit on apply. And the moment you hit on apply, it will be available to you for selection. So I'll go ahead on quantity, I'll go ahead on submit date, okay, and then I'll customize it according to my needs. So I can design my landing page in this way. And similarly, in the landing page, I can even sort out my records. So if I want the records which are first published at the very early, if I want all of this in ascending order, I can choose to sort out based on this ascending order. I can even choose to sort out on descending order, and just remove the others. So now when I go to the landing page, I'll see all the records in descending order according to their creation date. So I go in here, and as you can see, the one which is most recently published is at the top, and then all the records here are at the bottom. So they're all in the descending order all the way till 7-9. So I can even choose to sort out based on any kind of value or based on any kind of date, etc. And then again in Archer, we get to see this landing page in couple of other formats as well. If I change in a row format, I can see the data in this row format. If I change it in form of summary format, I get to see summaries like this. I can even change it in form of card. So I get to see all records in form of cards like this. And again, default stays as column flat or column hierarchical. There is not much major difference between the two. It's just regarding if you have added any additional field. With hierarchical, you get a plus symbol to expand it. With flat, you get all the fields listed together in just single landing page like this. So a couple of ways you visualize your landing page. And lastly is the structure part, and then I'll take a pause to answer any of your questions you may have. So structure in application is like you want to divide this application into two parts. Dividing the application does not mean you are creating two separate applications. You are just providing a level to differentiate between the two. So I can create levels in the application. I can create level 1, I can create level 2, level 3, as many levels as I want, okay, according to my needs. So if I feel like within level 1, I would only like to have certain amount of field details and certain amount of fields, like the way I have right now. This is for level 1. Now I change from level 1 to level 2, then the layout, the look of the records completely changes. So any record what I create for level 2 would only show me up these two fields, and if I change for level 1, I'll get to see a bunch of fields what is present in the system. So you can structure your application into several levels as well, and they are multi-purpose used in the system, for differentiating levels, that you may have an application and you want to divide it based on regions. So let's say for some region you choose for Asia Pacific, for North America, for Europe, right? You can divide one application into 3 levels, and according to the levels you can customize your fields, but application still remains as one. And when you have leveled application, Archer will show you that when you are creating a new record, that for which level you would like to create a record, whether you want to create for level 1, whether you want to create for level 2, level 3, level 4, so forth and so on. So then you can choose that I'm creating for level 1, and you get all these information this way, exactly what we saw on the layout. And then if I go back and create for level 2, I'll hardly see the 2 fields what we saw, like this. All right. So now let's talk about uh, one of the most important areas, or the core of Archer, which is data fields. Okay. Now with the help of data fields, whatever you may say, notifications, reports, dashboards, iViews, any functionality in Archer, without any kinds of fields, it's of no use. So fields are like the base or the core for any application or for any record in Archer. So let's try to look at certain fields what is available to us in Archer. I'll give you a quick overview about the fields what is present, and then on the front end we'll take a look at how each of these field looks like. So to begin with, Archer offers us attachment fields. Okay, so let me open up one record and let me show you from the front end how it looks like. Attachment. So here first is the attachment field. Now Archer offers you to have any kind of attachment added to a record. All I have to do is click on add new and then select the file from which I do want to upload any kind of data or any kind of information. So let's say if I want to upload any kind of Excel file, PDF file, or a copy, right? I can just simply go ahead and do the upload in the system. And once the upload is done, I have to just click on OK. So with the attachment field in place, I get to know what is name of the file, when was this uploaded, if there were any downloads, if there is any history associated to it or not. That's the basic information. And if you want to customize this, yes, we can customize this. We can increase the size from 10 MB to 100 MB. We can add up any additional fields as well over here. That is pretty much possible. If I want to reduce the length of this field, what we see here, yes, that is possible as well. If I want to place this field somewhere at the top in general information or below anywhere else, yes, that is possible as well. So it's highly customizable in terms of how we want the field to look like. So it is pretty much possible to customize this. But this is what the basic functionality of an attachment field looks like in Archer. Now, do not bother about cross application status. This is much advanced field in Archer. Um, if we talk about content access history, right, this is one of the important fields in Archer from a compliance standpoint, and it gives me an idea that how many times and by which user this record has been visited. So we get to know that this particular user, which is my account itself, I visited this record for the very first time on 8/2, then on 8/4, 8/7, so forth and so on. So any number of times I visit on this record, or if I even stay on this record, that means that I have maybe read only, or maybe in form of updates or any other modifications I'm looking for. Archer will track the history that this particular user has accessed this record on this date and this time. and we cannot modify or we cannot change this. This data remains stagnant and it is generated by Archer itself. So this is what access history means. Then if I talk about cross reference means that when we want to interconnect two applications, okay, let's say if I want to establish a relationship between this application test and any other application what is present in the system. In my case, I have chosen audit plan. So I get to select audit plan records in this way, and I can simply list down those records into this record of Archer. Again, cross-reference fields can be customized like this, like what we are seeing over here. I can decrease the width, the size of this field. I can even customize the display of this. I can even restrict number of records for my visibility. I can even add up filters over here for each of the fields, that if I do not want certain records to be displayed, or I want limited records to be visible or available for selection, yes, I can completely customize this. All of these options are available. But basic cross reference field means that you are interconnecting or you are putting up a linkage of one application to the other. So that way we can have a relationship between two application, and you can have as many cross reference as you want. Right, so you can have it with audit plan, you can have with issues, you can have with exceptions, you can have with risk register. Any application what is present in system, right, you can establish a relation to. So cross reference field, important field in Archer and very widely used. Then if we talk about date fields, date fields are pretty straightforward. It gives you a calendar option, and then you can choose from the calendar whichever date you may want to pick in. Okay, you can pick a date from July, you can pick a date from August, September, maybe a future date. Okay, but interesting thing in Archer is that date format in Archer is accepted in mm, dd, YYYY. Archer will not accept any other format than this. So even when we are trying to import something or import a date in Archer, format has to be exactly this. Archer will not accept dates like even this way, or like this as well. None of the formats except this one is accepted when it comes to date. So this format is very specific, and this is how even when you enter a value in calendar, it will first choose the month, which is 7 in I mean, let's choose August. Okay, so I choose 7th of August. So first would be the month, then would be the day, and then would be the year. So only this format is allowed in Archer when it comes to date. If you try to import or if you try to enter something like this in the wrong way, like this, right, you feel like I want to enter it this way, Archer will throw you a warning that please enter a valid date. Archer will not accept formats like this. Or if I even enter like this, Archer will throw you an error in this format. Okay, so this is about date field. And even with date field, you can even have a time. So Archer does give you an option to choose between date and time, and date and time both. So you can choose date as well as the time it belongs to. So as we saw yesterday that we are based out of Eastern Standard Time, EST time zone, our system is. So then you can see even the updates in Eastern Standard Time zone format. So Eastern Standard Time, you'll see here in first published or last updated as well. And even with any dates or any updates what you make, you will see date and time in this format. Now we'll move to external links. So external links is again one of the very good feature in Archer, where I can add any link. Uh, you know what I want to within the organization or outside of the organization. But of course, outside of the organization is completely up to an institute, how many URLs they have allowed, how many of them have been blocked. But let's think internally that your company may have a share point or a shared location or a shared path where you may have training materials or documentation related to uh, the record you are working on, or general information. So you can enter up that details in form of a URL like this. You can enter up, okay, whatever your shared path or common network folder path is, or whatever your article or any specific links which you may want to enter up. You can do it this way. And then let's say for now we use google.co.in, and then I just say this as Google uh, search like this, and I click on OK. So I get my link like this, Google search. Okay. And when I click on this, Archer will open up another tab, and it will redirect me to Google like this. So like this, any URL you can put up in URL field. Uh, it comes with certain modifications, restrictions as well. So you can customize a bit on this, but this is again one of the very useful feature where you can provide a reference to or a link to for any kind of documentation or material, so forth, so on. Then we move to first published date. So first published date is by default uh, generated by Archer whenever we create a new record. So let's say if I go ahead and click on new and I choose level 1 and I just hit on save. So this first publish, as you can see, Archer picks up the time, date and the time when this got first created. And this is fixed. I cannot change this, I cannot update this, I cannot modify this, nothing. This is basically a system generated timestamp what we get while first creating it, and lastly when we update it. So let's say I created this record and we wait for a minute or two, and then we make any updates in the system. Okay, so then last updated will automatically change on its own. So let's use this record. Okay, and let me change from low medium. Now from 1040, I think this will change to, yes, 1041, because I recently made the change. So any change what you made in the system, any change what you make in the system at any point in time, the one which was last updated by any user in the system will reflect here. So I made it right now. If somebody else logs into system and updates this records or modify this record, right, that particular timestamp will be populated here. So the last timestamp or the last person to update this record, that particular timestamp would be displayed in last update. So last updated is just meant to show us the most recent last updated. And this again, as with first publish, it remains unchanged. You cannot go ahead and change this. You cannot go ahead and modify this. It remains the way it is. And here comes the very important feature from compliance standpoint. This is very, very important, and it's a must-have field on Archer, which is history log. So I'll take a bit of a time to explain this field a little bit in depth, because this is very important field. So history log in Archer captures the entire history of what has happened on this record. Okay. So I click on view history log. So Archer shows me the time this record got created, which was the initial entry made, who was the user who was initiating this entry, which were the fields which were impacted, right? Post that, which entries got added up, which entries got removed, all the details completely from creating the record all the way till the last updated would show up in this format. Archer will also tell me who was the user who did any of these changes, right? Date when this was made, time when it was made, who was the user, on which field it was made, what was the previous value and what is the value now, etc. Right? So let's just note that this is the last entry. Okay. Now let's make some modifications and then let's get to history log to see, do we see any changes here or not. So I remove these two records, I save it, then I I just keep low over here, I save it, then I enter today's date as 08072023 and I save it. So I did couple of changes and now let's see what history log has to offer us. So as you can see, the very first field xref, right? The initial entries which were present got removed and only these two entries are present. So Archer will strike off the older entries and just show me the results in this way. Then it comes to quantity. We have high, medium and low. Now I did change from high, medium and low to just low. So these three entries got kicked off and then I can just see low. Then previously it was MMDDYYYY and then I entered up a real-time date. So it strikes off the older data and shows me the recent one. So Archer will keep on doing until anybody stops the change or the record completely gets into read-only mode without making any changes or without any kind of updates to it. So this is what history log has to offer us. An important part is we can extract this history log. So if I want, I can extract this history log in uh, Word format or Excel format or a CSV format and so on. So I extracted it and then I get to know the history in this way. So I can see how many changes have been made this way, in which format, etc. So this is how I can get the history log with date and a timestamp. I can do a lot of customization with history log fields. Okay, I can restrict number of entries. I can even decide to clear off the history log, because if a record is 5 years old, I do not want the data from all 5 years. I just want some limited data within it, or I may not want to track, first published or last updated, because it's already visible. I only want to track certain number of fields. So even those type of customization are possible with majority of the Archer field, not just history log, but with majority of the fields in Archer, you can customize this. Only fields where customization is not possible is system generated fields, where you have like first published and last updated and tracking ID or the record number in the system, which is a unique ID. We cannot change fields like this. It remains stagnant and it is generated by system. So now we have seen history log. Similarly, we have image, IP address as well. So any particular image, if I want to attach it on the system, I can simply click over here. I can add up a logo, I can add up a file, etc. It's it's pretty much possible to select any kind of image or logo, whatever we may want, and just update it in the image field. And similarly, IP addresses are also available, v4, v6. So if you are using devices and if the device has an IP address, it is recommended that we go with this kind of IP addresses field like this and enter up IP addresses according to public networks, private networks, v4, v6. You have the option to configure it. So you can choose IP address in this format. Last updated we have already seen. The last person to update this will be tracked with a timestamp. Okay, and the person who last updated would be the timestamp from all the group of users or all users who updated the most recent ones or the last ones. Then we get to numeric. Let's not consider matrix or multiple reference display control. They are very, very advanced fields. We'll go to numeric field now. Numeric field is basically where you can enter up any kind of numbers in the system. So let's say if I want to enter 15 or I want to add up 15.25, any kind of numeric digits I want, I can enter up, or I can create a numeric field and I can enter up digits like this. I can enter up 58.00, 10.00, any numeric digits I want. Now with numeric, you can customize a lot. You can give out a range over here as well. Okay, you feel like that you don't want users to enter beyond 100 or 200. Okay, so you can choose range between 0 to 100, 0 to 200. So any user who enters a range, see like how I have given here, that the value of numbers must be less than or equal to 50, because 50 is the upper cap. So if I enter any number above 50, Archer will not allow me to save the record. It will throw an error. So you can define range over here. Then you can even add up a bars over here where increment or decrement can happen in several fractions, is like 1, 2, all the way till 100, 1, 10, 100, right? So in several ways, you can add up the incremental or decremental bars as well. And similarly, negative values as well. If you give a range, okay, Archer will accept negative values up to the range you have given. If you do not give any range, then Archer will accept by default any values whatever you feed in. But if you give a range, then you have to be restricted to this range. You cannot go beyond a particular range around this. So range has to be within this numbering. You can add up decimals, positive numbers, negative numbers. You can give them a range, etc. So you can customize a lot around numbers too. Then comes one of the most important field is record permissions. Now, record permission itself is a very huge topic. So I'll just give an overview about what are record permissions. Now, yesterday we did see permissions at the application level, right? That with application level, I can create, read, update, delete. Okay, I can do all of that stuff. Now, how about if I want to restrict permissions at the record level? That if we talk about this particular application test, and in this application, I do have tentatively around 40 records or so, 29 records. Now I feel like that I want to categorize these records and I want to classify that none of these 29 records should be visible to everybody. So let's say if I am a risk analyst, okay, I am risk analyst 1, somebody else is risk analyst 2, so forth, so on. Then I can create permissions in such a way that I will have access only on my records. I will not be able to see others' record, or even if I am able to see, I will not be able to update other records. Right? So that level of permission happens from record to record. Okay. So I am risk analyst on 2 records. So I will configure record permissions with manual options in such a way that I just get visibility to the 2 records I am listed on. The other person who is listed on other records will be able to see those records. So I can limit my permissions by using record permission. Then if I feel like I as a manager, I'm managing a team of 10 people and all these 10 people work separately on different records, but as a manager he should have access on all the records. He should be able to see all the records. He should be able to update all the records. Then on his case, we have to define automatic record permissions, that automatically that manager gets all the rights and all the privileges, right, on each of the records what is present in the system. Okay, so I define automatic record permissions for the manager. And then lastly, what I have is inherited record permissions. So as we were just talking about audit plan application, okay, that it has been cross referenced to. So if I want certain audit plan people, okay, I chose certain audit plan records, and within that audit plan, there are audit plan managers. I even want to give them permission on my application, which is application test. So I can inherit the permissions. I can inherit permissions from application test to audit plan, and from audit plan to application test. So inherited record permissions is basically used to inherit permissions from different applications and make the primary applications or the source application visible with appropriate rights. Okay, so these are three types of RPs or record permissions available to us: manual, automatic, and inherited. And I just gave an overview about what each of these functionality has to offer. In depth, they are very bigger topics, right? It is very much in depth, where we can customize from permissioning to permissioning, where we have to see how each permission does not conflict with each other. If the same user is present at multiple places, how to define permissions for it, etc. But that's on a very long run. For that, you will need to get enrolled in the Archer course, full 30 hours of learning what we have, where we will completely teach all of these details, all of these fields in complete depth, and you get a complete hands-on each of these fields with scenarios. So moving on to the next types of fields, which is uh, text field, tracking ID, values list. Okay, let's talk about that. So text field, it's a simple text field where you can enter up any text, okay, in the system. You can enter up any kind of description in the system. So this description types of field I have added up over here, and I enter details, I can enter text, I can enter any information like this. Okay. So basically this is a very open text field for me, which allows me to enter up any details. I can enter up special characters, numeric characters. All of these is pretty much allowed. And all I have to do is simply save it. So with text field as well, we can customize a lot. We can change width of the text field. We can increase it. We can, change it. We can decrease it. We can change a lot around the description area or the description field as well. Where if I want the width to be more, I can do that. If I want only limited number of characters to be entered, that I do not want people to write much information, I just want to give them access to limited characters, be it like 200 or 250 characters or so. So I can even customize this field with certain characters count, that the restriction happens just to 250 or to 300, whatever input I may give. So text field is a again very widely used field in Archer, and again customization is possible. Even with text field, you can add up an audit trail over here to get the information that who was the last user who modified the details in this description field with date and timestamp. So you do get date and timestamp along with the user who last modified this description field. You can see all these information over here. Then if we talk about values list field, right? So values list field comes with several options, that if you are starting a record, then ideally you may expect that status of the record to be not started. When you are somewhere in middle of the workflow, you expect the status to be in progress. When it has been rejected, you expect the status to be in rejected mode. When it has completed the assessment and it is accepted, by everybody, you expect the status to be approved. So all these statuses are nothing but values, right? And depending on the configurations we give here in values list field, you can customize in form of a drop down, in form of a checkbox, in form of a radio button. Okay, let me show you one quick example for a values list field. So I go on value to a field and I change the options from values pop up to or rather, let's do for quantity since we were talking about that. So I changed to a drop. So I go on application test, choose any record, and then you can see I can see the drop down in this way rather than this radio buttons. I can choose from low, medium, high, no selection, okay, any of these to the user group list, right? So for those users who are not actually part of the workflow or they are not stakeholders, but they just need to be present on a record, they just need to be uh, present on a record for just their naming, or be it like department heads or senior heads where they actually do not come to workflow or log into Archer and do the approval rejection process or so. But let's take an example for business units. So every organization would certainly have business units and business units head. So if an record is created and you may need to enter a business unit head, right, you can just use user group field and just add that user or that stakeholder, right, the name of that particular person, and list it in user group list field. So that has nothing to do with functionality, that user doesn't have any role to play in. It does not allow or restrict any kind of permission. It's just simply for choosing the user from the list and saving it over here. So let's say I can simply go ahead and choose like this infosec train, right, and save it. So this way I do get user listed, okay, in user group list, and this is all the purpose is about. And tracking ID is a unique ID for every record we create in the system. Okay, you can either choose tracking ID based on application, number of records in application, or tracking ID based on entire set of records present in the system. But this tracking ID has to be always unique. This tracking ID is rather always unique, and it's a system generated field. So I cannot change, I cannot modify, I cannot update this tracking ID. And this tracking ID stands as a unique identity to each of the record in the system. So even as you can see this tracking ID, you will see this tracking ID listed over here. So this tracking ID is a unique ID, okay, which comes with each of the record, which provides an identity to the record. And based on tracking ID, you can even bulk update records. When you are performing any kind of bulk updates on records or bulk data imports, then one unique identifier which differentiates one record from the other is tracking ID. So this is how important tracking ID is for any record in the system. Okay, and this is very very widely used field for most of the application. It has to be tracking ID only. So we go on application Archer, sorry, application builder reports in Archer. And Archer application reports basically provide us all the information about application, all the fields present in application, plus any notification we may have association with in Archer, any kind of data driven events in Archer. So yes, Archer also has data driven events, right? Again, one of the advanced topics in Archer. where we can create certain events, and based on that events output will follow. That is again a part of applications, where we see in rules and actions. Okay, plus we can even get summary of the calculated fields. So we did see an overview about the fields, but if I feel like that I do want to provide certain calculations in Archer, okay, and I want a particular output, then I can make text field, date fields, numeric fields, okay, all of these fields as calculated fields, and I'll get the output accordingly. So calculations in Archer are done through a specific formula builder, right? It does not have any kind of coding, or it does not deal with any kind of uh, codes or language knowledge or so. It's a simple logical formula builder tool, and with the help of which you can build out the formulas. So these are calculated fields, and if you want a summary of all those calculated fields what are present in Archer, okay, you can go ahead and extract these reports. So let's try to do first with application detail. Okay, now when I choose application detail, I get to first select the application for which I want to extract the details. So I select application test and I click on OK. And here I get all the information about my application, beginning with what is the name, what is the ID, solution it is tagged to, whatever exactly what we are seeing on the front end. We get all of these information present, and I can keep going from page to page, and even description about each of the fields what is present in application is available here. What is their customization, right? Exactly how it has been configured, what are the options which has been enabled for that particular field. All the details we get it from application builder report. So you can again extract it in form of CSV file, a Word file, PDF file, okay, depending on your needs. Archer pretty much gives you the option to extract each of these field information or application information. Now you may think of that why exactly it is used and what is the need for having it. So I'll give you a situation that, let's say, uh, we have a values list field which has value as high, medium, and low, and some due to some business changes they decide that I would want to discontinue using this field, and users, neither the users nor the admins nor anybody in the system can use this value list field, just make this field disable. Okay, so in this case, what would happen if the other fields in Archer are like data driven events, or some kind of calculations in Archer are using these values, or based on these values we have created certain events, or based on these values we have designed certain notifications in Archer? How do we get to know at how many places this field is being used, right? So in order to get a holistic view, rather than going into every individual single field in the system, rather than going into every individual report in the system and checking whether this is used, whether this is not used, etc. So rather than hovering around at different places within the tool, all you have to do is just extract this report in the system. Okay, and once you extract this report in the system, okay, all you get to do is you have to search for this particular field. So let's take an example of quantity. Okay, I do get this report over here from Archer. Close it, enable editing, and then I choose quantity. So I get the output now. The first one is the values list field with the configuration as no minimum, no maximum. Second is where I get again in the quantity field itself, and third as well. Unfortunately, I don't have any rules or so associated, but let's go to Archer once and see for which rules fields are being used. So it will help us get a better understanding. is value to a field. Okay, so let's search on value to a field. So this is being used at 5 places, 5 different places. Okay, so let's say I go to this field, which is basic field, and I get the configuration about this field. Then I go to this calculation. So I get to know that for this calculation, this particular field, value to a field, is being used. So I cannot directly go ahead and inactivate this field, or I directly cannot go ahead and delete this field, so forth, so on. I have to do a prior analysis that if I'm disabling anything, I'm inactivating anything, I'm removing anything from the system, how do I check the dependency, that at how many fields, how many places this is present. So manually going to each of the fields and checking it gets very tedious and time consuming. So it's good option that you extract reports like this from the system and then just do the filters. And then again, we get to know that this is the calculations where it is widely being used, so forth, so on. So I get to see all the details about uh, system in terms of workflows, notification fields, application fields, what has been created, right? Majority of the configurations are covered up here in my application test report. I can even specifically choose to extract it for fields, just if I want details about the fields, right, and want to check if there is any interdependencies like calculations or in any other field it is used, then I can extract application field report. I can even extract reports for data driven events like this. Click on OK. Okay, now since I've got this, I can again choose to search in the document and I get the information that okay, this particular data driven event, this particular rule, which says rule number 3, status is inactive, but this rule number 3 is utilizing this field, and so is using rule number 2. So in terms of DDEs, notification fields, everywhere I can extract reports like this and I can do this kind of analysis. Also, I can share across for any kind of configuration change if I may want in the system. Then also reports like this are helpful for developers to get a holistic view. Okay, so this is very much important from data extraction, and then with the help of this we can try to do our searches, we can try to extract the information as much as possible. Similarly, you get values list summary as well, the values list field, what we were talking about. Then you can even try to get record permission summary from this, how many record permission fields are present in the system, and a bunch of other options what is present. So not only for applications, you can even check application builder reports for questionnaires in Archer. And questionnaire is nothing but a set of questions, right, which one may need to use when performing like a risk assessment, or you have information about the application, but if you want to perform an assessment like business continuity assessment or access control, or questionnaire related to access control, data privacy, etc., then you have a certain set of questions curated. So all those questionnaires, all these questions are framed in a questionnaire of Archer, and that is always tagged to an application. So questionnaires are similar to applications, but questionnaire needs to be tagged to an application for sure. And even for that, you can extract certain kinds of reports in the system, similarly in Excel format, PDF format, etc. Okay, and you can choose to have a holistic diagram about all solutions in Archer, all applications in Archer. You can have entire application summary based on solutions. So let's choose audit planning and quality, and you get the information about entire application based on audit planning and quality. It's exported. I can simply download it and have a visualization. I may not be able to open up as this is a VDX file, but yeah, this is what Archer has to offer in terms of solutions, in terms of applications, and a bunch of other reports what is available to you. So each report again cannot be customized, cannot be modified, cannot be deleted. Whatever the reports you see here are all readily available reports in the system, and we cannot change or modify this. So this is one of the important things we have to keep in mind, be it access control or application builder reports, that reports cannot be customized, cannot be changed. They are all system driven reports, and the data what you see here is the actual data, or it is the exact source of truth what has happened in the system. So this is about application builder reports in Archer.